Hi, boys and girls. We're about to start our 19th My Weird School book. Dr. Carbles is losing his marbles. Chapter 1 Squanto and Pocahontas. My name is AJ and I hate school. Do you know what the only good part of school is? The end of it. At 3 o'clock when we get to go home. But at the end of the school, this one day in November, we weren't allowed to go home at 3. The school secretary, Miss Patty, and made an announcement that everybody had to go to the all purpose room. That's a room we use for all purposes, so it has the perfect name Bummer in the Summer. So we were sitting there, bored out of our minds, when suddenly two African Americans came running in down the aisles. They were wearing feathers and headdresses. They jumped onto the stage, whooping and hollering. But they couldn't fool us. We knew exactly who they were. It was Mrs. Rupee, yelled my friend Michael, who never ties his shoes. Mrs. Rupee is our librarian. And Mr. Klutz, yelled my friend Ryan, who will eat anything, even stuff that isn't food. Mr. Klutz is our principal and has no hair. Klutz, said Mr. Klutz. Never heard of him. I'm Squanto, an Indian who helped the Pilgrims survive their first years in America. And I am Pocahontas, said Miss Ruby. I helped the English settlers when they arrived in Virginia in 1607. Miss Ruby always dressed up like somebody else. She never admits she's the librarian. Miss Ruby is loopy. Thanksgiving is coming up, said Mr. Klutz. To celebrate, we want to do an introduce you kids to our two friends of ours. They went behind the curtain, and you'll never believe in a million hundred years who they brought out from backstage with them. I'm not going to tell you. Okay, I'll tell you. But you have to read the next chapter. So nanny boo boo on you. Chapter 2. Turkeys are wild. It was a turkey. They brought a turkey out on stage. Now, I've seen plenty of dead turkeys in sandwiches, but I've never seen a live one before. This turkey was dressed like a pilgrim, with a little bonnet and a dress. It was hilarious. All the kids went nuts. Gobble, gobble, said the turkey. Where do you think Mr. Klutz got a turkey? Asked Neil Crouch, who we call Neil the nude kid, even though he wears clothes. Maybe he rented it, said Michael. You can rent anything. There's probably a place called Rent a Turkey. For my birthday party, my parents rented a lady dressed like a clown, said Ryan. If you can rent a lady dressed like a clown, then you can probably rent a turkey dressed like a lady. For my birthday, my parents rented a pony, said this annoying girl with curly brown hair named Andrea. We all got pony rides. Why couldn't a pony fall on her head? Mr. Klutz had his arms wrapped around the turkey so he couldn't escape. She didn't look very happy. This is our friend Gobbles, said Mrs. Rupee. She's going to help us get into the spirit of Thanksgiving. Everybody said, hello to Gobbles. Gobble, gobble, said Gobbles, flapping her wings. Mr. Klutz was having a hard time holding on to her. Isn't Gobbles cute? Asked Andrea. No, I said. What is her problem? Turkeys aren't cute. Penguins are cute. Turkeys are ugly. If they were cute, we wouldn't eat them. You don't see anybody eating penguins, do you? Besides, if Andrea thinks something is cute, then I don't. Gobble, gobble, said Gobbles again. She was really flapping her wings hard now. Turkeys are weird. They can't fly. What's the point of being a bird if you can't fly? That would be like being a fish. They can't swim. Gobbles was probably upset because Thanksgiving was coming. And if I was a turkey, I would hate Thanksgiving too. I'll make a deal with you, said Mr. Klutz, who is always making deals with us. If each class creates a beautiful Thanksgiving display, I will get married to Gobbles. Wow, it would be cool to see Mr. Klutz marry a turkey. This was going to be even better than the time he kissed a pig on the lips. Everybody was going crazy, cheering and stamping their feet. Gobbles didn't seem to like that noise. She started gobbling really loud, and then she freaked out and broke away from Mr. Klutz. Gobbles went running off the stage. She jumped into the front row where the first graders sat. The first graders freaked out, shrieking and crying and running away. Then everybody started freaking out. "Run for your lives!" shouted Neil, the new kid. "There's a wild turkey on the loose!" All the kids were screaming and running and crashing into each other. You should have been there, and you'll never believe who came into the all-purpose room at that very moment. It was Dr. Carbles, the president of the Board of Education. I always thought that Mr. Klutz was important, like he was the king of the school. But if Mr. Klutz is the king of the school, then Dr. Carbles is the king of the world. He probably sits on a throne and has servants fan him with big feathers. I saw that in a movie once. "Klutz!" he hollered. "What is the meaning of this? Why is it that every time I come to this school, you're in some weird costume and the students are running around like lunatics?" "It's just a little discipline problem, sir," Mr. Klutz said as he chased Gobbles around. "I'm going to put Gobbles in detention." "Don't you have any sense, Klutz?" shouted Dr. Carbles. "We have enough discipline problems with the children. Why would you bring a turkey to school?" "To marry it," somebody said. Then that's when Gobbles went berserk. She crashed into Dr. Carbles and knocked him down. "That's it, Klutz," yelled Dr. Carbles yelled. "You're fired." Chapter 3, Meet the New Boss. What? Mr. Klutz was fired? It couldn't be true. We were all shocked. I thought it was one of those times when something really horrible happens and then it turns out to just be a dream. I saw that in a movie once. But the next morning, while we were all putting our book bags away, everybody was talking about what happened. "Dr. Carble can't fire Mr. Klutz," said Michael. "Well, he did," said Ryan. "But Mr. Klutz is the best principal in the world," said Neil, the nude kid. Neil was right. Everybody loved Mr. Klutz. Some kids were crying. Teachers were hugging each other in the hallway and dabbing their eyes with tissues. It was like Mr. Klutz had died. After we pledged the allegiance, our teacher, Miss Daisy, said we should remember the good times we had with Mr. Klutz. "Remember when he got his foot caught in the top of the flagpole and was hanging upside down," said Ryan. "Remember when he dressed like Santa in the holiday pageant and he was hanging upside down from a sled," said Michael. "Once I got called to the office and he was hanging upside down from the ceiling," I told everybody. "Mr. Klutz sure hangs upside down on a lot," said Emily, who was a big crybaby. It was hard to concentrate on reading and math that morning. We were all thinking about the good old days with Mr. Klutz. When it was time to go to the vomitorium for lunch, we were all sitting talking about it. "They'll have to get us a new principal," said Andrea, who was sitting with her annoying girlfriends at the table. "Who do you think it will be?" asked Ryan. "I hope he's nice," said Emily, who always hopes everybody will be nice. "How do you know it will be a he?" said Andrea. "Maybe the principal will be a lady. Maybe one of the teachers will become principal," Michael said, "like Mr. Docker or Miss Hannah." "Being a principal is an important job," said Neil, the nude kid. "There is a lot to do, like yell at kids, boss around teachers, and dress up in weird costumes and marry turkeys," I said. "It'll be hard to find someone who can fill Mr. Klutz's shoes," said Andrea. "Who cares about filling his shoes?" I said. "We need a new principal. What would they fill his shoes with anyway? It's just an expression, dumbhead, Andrea said. So's your face, I told her. We didn't have to wait long to find out who the new principal would be. At the end of the day, we had to go to the all-purpose room again. Once everybody was seated, a lady got up on stage. She told us her name was Miss Haney, and she was the superintendent of the schools in the county. Wow, we thought Dr. Carble was important. If Dr. Carble's like the king of the world, then Miss Haney is like the queen of the universe. I bet she can fly and see through walls, Ryan said. That's why she's superintendent. Mrs. Haney said she knew we were all sad about Mr. Klutz and told us not to worry. Nothing would change now that he was gone. I'd like to introduce you to your new principal, she announced, and you'll never believe in 1,100,000 years who walked up on stage. I'm not going to tell you. Okay, I'll tell you. And you don't even have to read the next chapter. It was Dr. Carbles.